Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I am joined here, as always, by the man who would never have his kicker try a 64-yard field goal. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm buzzing right now. I am in a little bit of a predicament, though. I need your in the chat's help here. So,
Okay.
Are you even aware that there's like a major European basketball tournament going on?
No.
Okay. Well, there is. It's the Eurobasket Championships. So before the tournament, I bet Germany plus 1850 to win the tournament.
Okay.
They were my sleeper pick. I picked them to win it, though, just because I like the odds I had there compared to some. Like France is missing a couple big players. Spain's missing a couple big players. They're in the semifinals. And the three favorites, Greece, Serbia, and Slovenia, are now all out. Do I hedge my bet and bet France as well to win the championship to see if I can earn my money back, or do I just ride it out with what I got?
Semifinal hedges are a little tough, right? How much did you bet?
Not a lot, but I mean, the payout's substantial if I win.
Right. I think if it's not a lot that you're going to lose, I think it might be worth it to just ride it out.
I think so. I think so, too. I'm leaning that way, but I'm also like, I could at least just get my money back. But yeah, I mean, I think I might as well just stick with it. I think I'm just.
Everyone in the chat is going to tell you to write it out because it's not our money. So everyone around us is going. I'm going to tell you to write it out. The chat's going to tell you to write it out just because it's not our money. Who cares?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it is a 4-figure payout, so I got to feel good about that if it happens. I mean, I would honestly pick them right now with the 4 teams left to win it. But it's also been maybe the craziest European tournament ever, like all the upsets. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll write it out maybe.
I see. Or you could potentially maybe write it out for one more game, and then if they make it to the final, then you hedge. That could be another move as well.
You're right. I'll keep thinking about it, but this is good. This is good. I feel pretty confident right now.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll make the decision throughout this podcast. Maybe we'll figure it out towards the end of it.
Yeah, probably not. I'll probably just ride it, or I'll decide Sunday that I need to change things.
Yeah. Speaking of needing to figure it out, let's talk about that Broncos team losing to the Seattle Seahawks. I think the biggest headline. So just so you guys know how this works, we are going to be predicting every single game of this upcoming week. But first, we start off with the Monday Night Football game since we were not able to cover it on the Sunday recap show. So, the clear thing that everyone's talking about, the Nathaniel Hackett of it all, and even the decision at the end of the game aside, this looked like a very sloppy Broncos team.
It did at times. Like, I thought it did at times. The big thing to me was just like, and part of it, like Seattle might be the best home field advantage in the league. Yeah, it's at least up there. And it definitely seemed to frustrate these guys because they couldn't communicate. And there was just a lot of, it seemed like missed opportunities, a lot of delay of game penalties, that kind of thing. But I don't know, though, because I watched this game and so I think we can all universally agree that the decision at the end of the game was bad.
Yeah.
I think it was just a bad decision, a bad setup. And I think the whole drive felt like they were playing to kick a 60-yard field goal at the buzzer. It just seemed like that was the solution. I'm just like, I don't get that at all. I think you should try and, score and make it as easy as possible to score anyway. But I don't know. To me, I actually came out of this game feeling pretty good about the Broncos and my pick for them to win the AFC West.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, this team ended up with all of this. They ended up 4th in offensive EPA per play. And honestly, if you looked at EPA through the first week of the season, it's a very small sample size, so it's going to change. There's basically 2 teams, a gap, 2 more teams, a gap, and then everybody else. And if you look at it right now, it's basically the Chiefs and Eagles have the best EPA per play by a significant margin. Then you're looking at the Bills and Broncos. So if you're saying the Broncos offense basically performed at the level of the Bills, Eagles, and Chiefs in week 1, just didn't score touchdowns, I still feel pretty good about that. I thought they actually outplayed Seattle in the second half. The defense struggled in the first half, but I thought they really turned it on. Bradley Chubb kind of took over that game at one point and shut down Seattle's offense. I still feel pretty good about the Broncos, but you got to score inside your 5-yard line, man. You can't go 0 for 3 inside the 5. That's just basically how it went down.
Well, I'll push back a little bit. I would agree that I don't think this Broncos team is a mess by any means. I was lower on the Broncos than a lot of people were, especially lower than you were. I think we were on 2 very different sides of the spectrum there. But I mean, I get it. The offense did look good. I thought. I thought Russell Wilson played good. I didn't. I don't agree that he played below average. He had his missteps, but I thought that as a whole he played well. But you're playing Seattle. Seattle, look at their secondary. Like you should be having a high EPA against them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it probably would have been among the Philadelphia and Kansas Cities if they didn't fumble. They had the second lowest EPA per rush, and
Mm-hmm.
that's probably because they fumbled the ball twice at the 1 yard line.
Right.
Which, yeah, I mean, I still, yeah. So you should torch the Seattle defense, and I thought they kind of did, but they just didn't finish drives, and that killed them. So I think that's basically the big thing is that if they score on those drives, I think things are going to get better. Like NFL coaching is hard. Like we tried, nobody agreed with the decision what they did at the end of the game, but we also have to remember that none of us could do this job well. None of us could go be a head coach and do well at it. And we're asking Nathaniel Hackett to be perfect in his first ever NFL game. Like I wouldn't be surprised if things get better as the season went along and this team just starts to figure its stuff out. I thought they played well in the second half of that game and deserved to win it. They just, fumbled it literally.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think clearly the Broncos are a better team than the Seahawks. I think that's like without question, and they showed that in this game that they were the better team, and they should have won this game, and they blew it more than the Seahawks won it. I agree with you about the Nathaniel Hackett's getting all the criticism. Nick Sirianni got a ton of criticism early on in his first season, and then he, that turned around. I'm not sitting here saying I get it. He's an easy guy to point the finger to. You're not going to point the finger at the quarterback you just paid a bunch of money to, so you point the finger at the head coach. But to me, the more concerning thing I think was it got better in the second half, but like you still made Geno Smith look very good out there, and that's not something that you want to have happen.
Yeah, they it seemed like when the Seahawks were on script, they moved the ball really well. And I was getting really concerned because one of the things was like, okay, I think Kareem Jackson's going to go back, regress in a positive way to the mean sort of thing and head back to, his normal level of football. And I didn't think he looked good at all in the second half. I thought he was one of the worst defensive players out there. They're still missing they were missing one of their linebackers. I can't remember at this one, but like it still wasn't a good defensive performance at all in the first half. There's no way around that. And when you're looking at the Seattle team that's starting Geno Smith, you got to think that gets better. I did think it got better towards the end of the game, like I said, and a lot of that was just Bradley Chubb saying enough of this. I'm going to beat the rookie left tackle a few times and make plays. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, it wasn't a great performance on the defense by any means.
Yeah. That being said, it is a little bit difficult to tell exactly, what kind of team this is just yet, because we have, it was just a weird game. But I don't know. I have a sour taste in my mouth about this game. I mean, you just can't help but feel like this was a massive blown opportunity, right? You should have had the Seahawks. You fumbled it twice at the goal line. You have all these, all these things go your way. I mean, the delay of games they were taking, just the sheer amount of delay of games throughout this game. They were unprepared. They probably should have played preseason. I think that's a big takeaway that I've always been a believer in. You want to play at least some preseason. I think we're seeing that this year. Starting quarterbacks who did not play in the preseason were 3-8. So I think that I think it'll right the ship. But who knows? I mean, this win could be a very important win down the stretch. This is a blown opportunity.
Well, that's the big thing is that like you don't want to drop games, especially in this AFC West where, you got to play 6 games against really good teams.
Mm-hmm.
You got to play 6 games against tough opponents. I think, if they lose it by a game, you could look back on this game, but I still think like at this point, I feel confident that watching all of these teams in week 1 and things are going to change drastically. I felt like I saw one of the 7 best teams in the AFC Monday night. They just, the finishing drives things I think is going to improve, which there was a few things I thought about that. Like, I don't know what they're exactly scheming up in the red zone. It just seemed like I don't know what exactly was happening down there that they couldn't get anything open. And then in the other part, like, can Russell Wilson not QB sneak? Is this the thing that I didn't realize was a storyline?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can he not crawl forward? I don't get it. But this was also Seattle's Super Bowl. Like, I think that's something that's also kind of going under the radar. They've been hyping this game up for months, probably. This is something that a lot of those people are motivated to win. Pete Carroll is especially motivated to win. And I don't think this is going to be a very competitive team this season. This was probably everything that they were hoping to go for, is beat Russell Wilson at home to start the season. And I think that was a big part of the game.
Yeah. Also, my last point before we can move on. The quote, which was a very fun quote, Geno Smith. They wrote me off, but I didn't write back. What does that mean? I don't. It sounds cool, but I don't think I actually fully understand they wrote you off. What does writing someone off actually mean?
Well, I guess it means that he wasn't ready to be finished yet, I guess. So
Does it mean like you write someone a letter saying like I don't think you're going to be successful, and then mail it to them, and then Geno Smith saw the letter and then chose to not write back? Is that what happened?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, give credit to him though. I mean, it was a really good first half from him. I mean, there were some blown coverages there, but he also made the throws. He made the plays he had to. I thought he was really good in that first half and looked impressive.
Yeah. Let's get into the Pick'em show, the meat of this podcast. 13 minutes in, we both got some points on our names a little bit here, but we've got both our locks, so it was not as bad as it potentially could have been. If we missed our locks, this would be looking really rough. Week one, but it's week one. It's hard to make the predictions here.
Yeah, both of us 3-5. I think there's a few things I recalibrated after week one, but I'm still waiting to. I still need a few more data points, I think, before I have any strong sways of opinion on a lot of these teams. And then there was a couple games, like I said, the Broncos are inside the 5-yard lines 3 times, don't score, don't get that one right. There was the I had the Bears 49ers, and I wasn't prepared for them to play in a monsoon. So I mean, there's a few things there where I thought, it changed a little bit of what I had.
Yes. Also, we have a chatter saying, "Sorry, I'm late, Kyle." So, okay. Do you accept his apology, Kyle?
Yeah, Kieran's cool. He can stay.
Okay. Good. All right. Let's move on to the. I'm going to give you the game because you started to show off last week, and we're tied. So now I start to show off this week. I'm giving you the game that I feel it could go either way. I don't know what to make of either of these teams entirely, so I'm giving you the Vikings at Eagles. Feels like a coin flip game. 1 point favorite. The Eagles are. Who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is going to be a really good game, I think. Both of these teams had, impressive week one wins at least, or impressive performances until, late in that fourth quarter. The Lions got a couple touchdowns to make that one a little more interesting. They both had wide receivers they heavily involved in their offensive game plan in week one. I'm gonna, I know it's Monday night Kirk Cousins. Nobody loves that. But I'm gonna go with the Vikes here. I'm rolling with the Vikings. I still really like this team. I like what I saw in week one with their ability to pass the ball. And I think that they're going to be able to slow down Jalen Hurts a little bit. So give me the Vikings here winning this game on the road.
Yeah. I originally had the Vikings. I actually changed my pick to the Eagles before this show. And here's what got me thinking. I know I am the, games are won on the outside guy, but that defensive line for the Eagles going up against this Vikings offensive line, which I have some concerns about, that feels like it could be a lot for the Vikings to overcome.
It could be potentially. Derek Barnett being out is going to hurt, I think, though. I think that's one thing that they're going to be missing out on. But overall, yeah, I mean, that could be the thing where, the Eagles could overwhelm them at the line of scrimmage. But I just think there's enough skill on this team to make things work, and enough Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, especially what I saw from, there just seems to be some lapse in judgment from this Eagles defense in that week one game. DeAndre Swift broke a few big runs, and he's a good back, but I just think that there's going to be explosive plays for the Vikings to have in this game.
It's possible. I mean, one thing about the Vikings that's fascinating, I mean, they're using Justin Jefferson basically the way that the Rams used Cooper Kupp last year. I mean, it's the exact same thing, and it's working out well so far one weekend.
Yeah, it's working out. It worked out beautifully. I don't think he's going to have 184 yards or whatever it was in this game, but I could still see him having another big game because I was not impressed with this Eagles secondary in week one.
Yeah. Another interesting factor is going to be a tougher task for, again, the two question marks we had about the Vikings team was their secondary and their offensive line, neither of which I feel like we're really challenged last week against Green Bay. Green Bay just came in and was a mess. So be interesting to see the other side is how well will this Vikings secondary do against the Eagles offense, which, Vikings, again, seemingly are one of these more new school defenses, putting two safeties deep, funneling things to the safeties. So be interesting to see how the Eagles could potentially attack that. A run-heavy team, that might be a good thing for the Eagles as well.
It could be potentially. And then you did see that times, there was a hole obviously in the first play of the game where Christian Watson went right past Patrick Peterson, like he wasn't even
Mhm.
there. That being said, I think I think Watson has a ton of speed. I think Peterson weirdly might match up a little bit better with AJ Brown and his size. We'll see. I mean, I could be completely off on that. And, AJ Brown goes for, another 150-yard day. But yeah, I mean, I still think, with these safeties at the back, I still trust them to kind of play deep, play conservative. But I feel like if you're going to put the ball in Miles Sanders' hand here, I feel like that's just going to play into Vikings and what they want to do because I think they're going to be able to score quickly and score a lot still. And I'm curious to see if the Eagles keep up in Week 1.
Yeah, that's probably what it will come down to. We'll see who comes ahead. Kyle, give me a game.
Not picking them again. Don't want to do it. Let's do Patriots at Steelers.
Patriots at Steelers. I have no problem picking this game, Kyle. In fact, I'm locking up the Patriots to win on the road here in Pittsburgh. I'm doubling down on my Patriots take. I know that there was some concerns last week. I get it. The offense, especially like the Devontae Parker thing, they got to figure out. That was tough. You seem like Mac Jones would throw it and it wouldn't be complete, and then he wouldn't throw it to Parker when he was open. So got to figure out how to make that work. I don't think they have to figure it out this week, though. So the Steelers did something very fascinating where they kind of, another team that, they said, hey, we're looking around the league. If teams are playing cover 2, we're not going to be the one team that plays cover 3 and gets torched like we did in the playoff game. They played a lot of cover 2 last week. I don't know if that's just Cincinnati specific or if that's what they're going to do. But if that's what they're going to do, I do trust this Patriots receiving core to be able to run a lot of zone busters and things of that nature. I also trust this Patriots defense to be able to shut down the Steelers offense that wasn't great last year. So I think the Steelers team can be frisky this year, but I like the way the Patriots match up well. So I'm locking up the Patriots.
I don't mind the pick. Like I could see, both of these teams being 1-1 feels kind of right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like if however you grade this Steelers defense, how many win shares would you take away with TJ Watt being out with how it performs and how it plays?
From what I understand about his typical WAR is about half a win a season, which is a lot, like a ton for an edge rusher.
Yeah, I just feel like that matters a lot. And now this Patriots offensive line did not look good in Week 1. But that being said, I downgrade the Steelers. I think it's the okay defensive line without Watt, but I downgrade it significantly when TJ Watt's not on the field. And I just think that's going to be really tough for this defense to overcome. Because I think, when the Bengals started coming back last week, and I'm not going to go anywhere near to comparing this Patriots offense to the Bengals offense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But when they started moving the ball around and moving the ball downfield, it's when TJ Watt went out, man. And they're just not even going to, they're not going to let Minkah Fitzpatrick make a ton of plays back there. I think the Patriots should be able to run the ball on this team, and I think they should be able to throw these quick hitting routes on this team. So I could see a scenario where the Patriots win, but that's also asking this offense to put up more than 7 points, which we'll see if it's possible this week.
Yeah, and I want to be clear as well. I like this Steelers team. I do. I think Pittsburgh is better than I expected, especially their defense. And I think that, again, with kind of not having Fitzpatrick be the only guy back there, I think makes him more valuable. I think it makes it that he had that pick 6 this game, largely due to the fact that he now only has to cover half the field. He can break in on those plays more. I just feel like the Patriots are a team that's not going to take that risk. So I think it's a bad matchup for the Steelers. Of what they do well, I think the Patriots can avoid.
Yeah, and people are talking about, I see a couple in here that Steelers defense much better. I wouldn't say the Steelers defense is that much better. I think this Patriots defense is pretty good. Like they held Miami to 13 points, and one of that was basically a 60-yard play that Jalen Waddle made a heck of a move. I thought that they played pretty well in Week 1. I don't think there's going to be a defense that creates a ton of turnovers. That's probably the knock you have on it. But I think Matthew Judon should be able to create pressure on the Steelers' offensive line. I think Christian Barmore and the guys in the middle should be able to slow down Najee Harris in the run game. I don't see the Steelers' offense having that much success against this Patriots defense either.
Yeah, there's also the historic thing of I feel Bill Belichick has often, had success against Mike Tomlin as well.
He has, but I mean, if you go by that, there's a lot of people he's had success against the last 20
That's fair.
years. So, not quite sure if that's as fair.
Yeah, that's probably reasonable. But I think this should be a very interesting game. Kyle, let me ask you: does this game feature 2 playoff contenders, 0 playoff contenders, or 1 playoff contender?
In the offseason, I said 0, and I'm going to stick with 0 right now. I still feel like it's 0. I mean, kudos to Pittsburgh for winning that game. I thought they did some really good stuff in the first half. Obviously, created a ton of turnovers. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm still sticking with 0. I still feel like there's better teams in the AFC.
I think it depends on how you define playoff contender. Maybe I think these are 2 teams that I could see making the playoffs if things break right. But we'll see. We'll learn more about them after this game. I'm going to give you a game. You gave me your team. I'm giving you my team. Buccaneers at Saints, the team that always beats the Buccaneers, is underdogs in this game by 3 points. Who do you have winning?
Yeah, so let me ask you a question here. Is Dennis Allen still working a lot with this defense?
I believe so. Yeah.
Is Marshawn Lattimore still on this team against Mike Evans?
Yep. Last I checked, correct. Yes, he is.
Okay. Is this still one of the best defensive lines in football?
I guess maybe it's very good.
All right, give me the Saints, home dogs. Let's do it. I got the Saints here. Listen, they had their number. I don't know what it is. They have their number. I think that I think the Bucs are a better team, but this is clearly just not a great matchup for them. And I think the big thing with the Saints or with the Buccaneers, like I think this Buccaneers team's going to hit its stride around week 7, week 8 and coast to the division. I just don't think they're ready to do it yet. I think what I saw from this offense is a lot of the, you're looking at guys like you look at receivers historically running Brady's offense or, a variant of the Brady offense a little bit. It takes a little bit of time for receivers to kind of catch up to speed. I thought Julio Jones was actually impressive in week 1. I picked him up in fantasy. I really like his game. I think he's poised to have a really good year and be key for this team down the stretch. But you saw guys like Russell Gage took a little bit to get into that game and caught a couple passes at the end of it. I think the lack of tight end now with OJ Howard and Rob Gronkowski gone, I think is a little bit for this Buccaneers team to adjust to. So I think it's going to take a little bit for this Bucs offense to reach its full level, and I think the Saints can get in here. So I'm taking the Saints at home.
I'm with you. I had the Saints winning this. I'm picking the Saints until the Buccaneers beat them in the regular season. Until they show me they can do that, I'm picking the Saints, and that's how as simple as I'm doing it. Tristan in the comments says Bucs have so many injuries too. That's a big part as well. It's like you have to be a little bit concerned about a banged up offensive line going to play New Orleans. I mean, again, you want to talk about their Super Bowl. I mean, the Saints get up to play the Buccaneers. We know that these are the games that they like to play.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely do. So I guess the one thing would be is that the Saints defense looked a little lackluster in the first half of that Falcons game. I thought the Falcons, were able to surprisingly move the ball pretty well on them. I just think the big thing is like a lot of that stuff had to do with a lot of rollout action. And obviously Brady's not going to do that.
Right.
Brady's not Marcus Mariota in that department. Not to say that Mariota is a better quarterback than Brady, of course, but I just think that makes a difference. I still think the Buccaneers are obviously going to be, a quick passing team with this interior offensive line in its status right now. But I think the lack of Donovan Smith potentially in this game, I mean, it sounds like he might play through pain, but we'll see. So I think that it's I think it actually still is kind of a toss-up, but yeah, I think right now the Saints had their number and I'm leading New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm almost surprised that the Buccaneers are home favorites. I guess I get it because in a vacuum they're the better team, but I still think the Saints are very good. Feels like the way the Bucs win is by having sort of a great defensive performance, which is possible. Their defense played great last week.
Yeah, and so I mean, I've been very high on the secondary for a bit now, and I still like these guys, but obviously, the Cowboys are going through a little bit more than we, even though we were both pretty low on them in the offseason, I think it's fair to say the Cowboys are a little worse offensively than we all thought in the offseason. And so I think like this will be a better barometer because I was very impressed with the Saints receiving core and how they were able to move the ball at the end of that game. I'll be interested to see how this Buccaneers secondary matches up with Jarvis Landry, who was impressive in week 1, Michael Thomas, who I was very impressed in week 1 as well. And they have another guy, Chris Olave, I thought had a few moments as well.
Yeah, should be fascinating. Now it's time for you to give me a game.
All right, going through the list here. I didn't organize these because I'm not very smart. I'll give you let's do the thumbnail game here. Let's do Dolphins at Ravens.
All right, Dolphins at Ravens. I had this one a little bit lower on my list. I'll be honest. I like the Ravens to win this game. I do think that the Dolphins are good. I get why, I think that, there's a lot that they do very well. I was impressed. And I think the Dolphins, when I saw them last week, I felt they had a lot of potential, right? Their offense didn't play great, didn't score a ton of points, but I felt like I could see flashes of it being great eventually. The issue is, again, this Ravens defense was unbelievable last week. Maybe it's just the Jets, but I'm still going to sit here and say I don't want to have to go up against that Ravens defense. I feel like anything the Patriots were able to do, the Ravens will also be able to do, at least for this week. And it might take a few more weeks for the Dolphins offense to get going. And I expect the rate. And again, it's one of those weird things where the Dolphins, right strategy, they build from back to front on defense, but now you're playing the one team that doesn't really help you with that much with the Ravens. So I like the Ravens to win, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins upset.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins upset, especially, I think they're also going to be able to kind of, they're one of the few teams I think in the league who can kind of man up Baltimore and get away with it. And so it'd be interesting to see if they kind of use that. Could they man up these receivers, have the guys in the middle kind of focus in on Lamar and try and limit that running game? I think there's a possibility there. But yeah, I think right now I still feel like Baltimore's a little bit ahead. I just, Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa. I'm sorry, Tuanon. So yeah, I mean, I think right now I think Baltimore's a better team, and I think I thought Dolphins had moments just because I think Tyreek Hill's dynamic. I think Jalen Waddle's dynamic, but that offense didn't blow me away in week one.
Yeah, I get it. It has some work. I think, especially the running game was not very good at all week one. This comment, hope to have a real answer against cover 0 this time. That's true. We all remember the last year when that kind of got the Dolphins win streak going a little bit. I'm not sure if that was the first game, but it was kind of put them on the map a little bit when the Dolphins beat the Ravens. They upset the Ravens last year with playing a lot of cover 0. You have to imagine the Ravens, again, it's a different scheme, different head coach. I don't know if they're going to do the same thing again, but you have to imagine the Ravens will be prepared for something like that, have some pick plays and things of that nature.
I would at least hope so. We'll see. And then, I think you can look at a couple of these tight ends too. Mark Andrews is obviously Mark Andrews, but you could look at guys like I could see Isaiah Likely coming up with a couple big plays. If J.K. Dobbins is healthy, that's also really going to help. So it's it's going to be interesting to see how they match up. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins win this one at all. Like, I don't think the line's that crazy, and I still think this is a pretty good football team. I just think that the Ravens are currently better.
Yeah, and again, the main reason I'm picking the Ravens is because I think their defense is really good, and I think their defense matches up well against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on then. I'm going to give you a game. I'm going to give you the Commanders. I wrote the Commanders. Why did I do that? The Balls taking on the Lions.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? This was one of my lock candidates, mainly because I just think this line's interesting. I get the Lions are at home, but I am going to go with the Balls. We're riding balls here, man. Always riding balls. Listen, what I said it in our week one recap. I was really impressive with the I was really impressive with the receivers for Washington in week one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not very high on Detroit's secondary after week one either. I think it might be one of the worst in the league. I think Washington should be able to throw the ball a lot on this Detroit defense and have a lot of success doing it. So give me Washington in this one. I think they should win this one pretty easily.
Yeah. No, one of my preseason takes I feel very good about was I believe I had Washington as a playoff team, at least as a fringe playoff team. And I feel like I feel good about that. I think people are sleeping on Washington and almost acting like they didn't upgrade at quarterback. Like, listen, again, Carson Wentz, not worth his contract, is a much bigger upgrade from what they had last year. Like, he's helping them out a significant margin. And when you add on the receivers that you talked about, and as you mentioned, the Lions' rough secondary, it feels like the Lions are going to have a really hard time on defense in this game. And so if their way is they're going to have Jared Goff winning the shootout, again, first and second overall picks from the same draft going against each other, interestingly enough. It's possible, but I like the Commanders offense a lot more than the Lions offense in that scenario.
Yeah, and I don't think this Washington secondary stinks either. So I think they should be able to have some success in this one. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the unless the Lions to me are playing the Jaguars, the Texans, maybe the Bears and Seahawks at home. Like I don't see a scenario where the Lions should be favored in a game. Like that's still
Right.
how I feel about this team. Like you can be more positive about this team and think it's heading in the right direction, which I do, but I still don't feel like watching this team that they should be favored in a lot of scenarios. Now the one thing is this Washington defensive line, which is normally very good and very high profile, is a little banged up. So obviously Detroit's offensive line, which is the best part of this team, should have success in that department. But yeah, I mean, if this game turns into a shootout, which a lot of Lions games are, do you trust this Lions game to win a lot of shootouts? I don't think I do yet.
Yeah, but the one way they could do it is again if Carson Wentz turns the ball over a couple times, like there's always that risk factor, that could cost you when you have to pick the Washington football team. Is that you could always, you're always a couple Carson Wentz plays away from being down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that'll flip the field. Obviously, I think I would bet the over in this game before I bet either side. But I'm still leaning balls on this one.
Yeah, I think I would. I would be okay if I were to bet. I would bet on the Commanders as well. I think I feel pretty good about that. +2. They could even lose by a point and you'd still be good.
Yeah. I don't see it with this Lions team right now. That to the point to where I'm picking them to, like you said, whether it's a playoff team or a fringe playoff team. I don't think this Washington team's that bad. Like that's the thing. I just don't view them as that bad. Like I think that they
Right.
could end up second or third in the NFC East. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I would be surprised if the Lions are anything higher than maybe third in the NFC North, and that's just because one team I have below it.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if if Washington isn't second in that division. With they're not the Eagles, but with the Cowboys and Giants, I feel like they're clearly the second favorite at this point.
With the injuries in Dallas, yeah, probably.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Give me a game.
Let's go with tomorrow night. Some would call it the marquee game of the week. I would call it the marquee game of the week. Let's just put it that way. Chargers at Chiefs.
Yeah. Should be a great game. Always a great game. These divisional matchups are going to be fantastic. The fact that we get so many of these AFC West games is, fantastic. Well done. AFC West teams building great quarterbacks because that way it makes it fun for us. I am going to Chiefs. One thing about the Chiefs is, September Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah. Yes, he is. He was fantastic in week one. Although, unless you ask Pro Football Focus, he was merely, above average.
Uh-huh.
You know, I like Pro Football Focus. It's just funny, especially
Sure.
when Chiefs fans take it so personally too.
I know.
Listen, I think the Chiefs should win this game, especially with Keenan Allen out. I know J.C. Jackson's questionable, but I think the one thing is let's slow down on anointing the Chiefs the favorite after week one. That's the one thing I felt like when I've been watching the reactions to all this is, all of a sudden the Chiefs are the favorite to win the Super Bowl all of a sudden. And I think right now I might just be selling Arizona's secondary a little bit more than I am ready to put the Chiefs number one in the football. I think that's
Yeah.
just kind of how I feel. I'm picking the Chiefs to win this game. I think it's going to be closer than we think. And honestly, I thought about locking up Chiefs -4 at one point, but their kicker's out. And I feel like that's a significant thing when you're talking about a 4-point spread if you can't kick field goals as well as you're hoping. We'll see how it works out for them. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a significant part of their offense too, especially when Butker's usually pretty good from 50 plus. I think that's significant.
I kind of think I would like the Chargers +4 though, even though I'm picking the Chiefs to win, just because the Chargers play a defensive scheme specifically built to beat Patrick Mahomes. Like that's not why they do it, but it's specifically like if you were to make a scheme to beat Patrick Mahomes, this is the scheme. So that's an advantage. They're not going to do it wasn't with the Cardinals. I sort of made a deep dive video about it. It wasn't just that they were blitzing, but they were doing these things where they were having the corners rush the passer and having 2 defensive tackles drop back into coverage, which is did not work at all. Just Cardinals had they were a mess week one. The Chargers won't be that. I think they'll do a better job of slowing down the Chiefs. This will be a better test for those receivers, the new receivers. I think the Chiefs still do fine enough to win. That's why I have them winning. But I could see that being I think the first real test for the Chiefs. I don't think Arizona. I think you and I are both kind of in agreement that Arizona not that great.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I feel right now. But I think J.C. Jackson's still considered questionable for tomorrow night. But that being said, I thought this Chargers secondary was pretty good in Week 1. I think that they can still have success, and with the returns we saw from Khalil Mack in Week 1, you may not need to be awesome in the secondary. Him and Joey Bosa should be able to get after Mahomes a little bit and create some problems. It'll be interesting. I think this is a fascinating matchup, and these two teams feel like that they can win the division and potentially go to the Super Bowl, win the conference and go to the Super Bowl. So we'll see how they match up. I think it's I don't think it's clear cut, and I think it could go either way.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say before we move on, interested in seeing how this Chiefs defense plays. Played very well Week 1,
Yes.
but I think again tougher task against Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
Yeah, especially I would say I would say Arizona's missing its top 2 receivers, honestly, with Hopkins and Rondell Moore, and I thought it was a tough task for them. So yeah, I would agree that I think this one can go either way, and then it's just maybe I'm sleeping on this a little bit. I just think it's going to be so hard for a team playing this many rookies to consistently be that good. That's just kind of the way I feel when I think about this Chiefs team, and I think I saw the rookie corner might be out. But with, Karlaftis, Pacheco, Sky Moore, those guys are all still really important parts of this team.
Yeah, should be a fascinating game. Excited to see that. Good Thursday night game. Good job, NFL schedule makers. Getting that one down. We hope. I'm going to give you the Panthers at Giants.
Yeah, I'll take the Panthers here on the road. I'm okay with it. I'll take the Panthers just because I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to do that again. And honestly, if he does, then maybe we should start thinking about him as a potential offensive player of the year sleeper. And then I just it was a great win for the Giants. It was really cool to see what they were able to do there. Brian Daboll going for the 2-point conversion. Literally 5 minutes before that, he was screaming at his quarterback for a dumb mistake. Am I going to bet on Daniel Jones as the favorite? No, I'm not going to bet on Daniel Jones as a favorite. I'll take the Panthers here. I think they get right. I think they feel, it was kind of a letdown at the end of that one. I will take the Panthers to win this one and, be able to win on the road.
Yeah. So I am happy that I am not picking this game because these are two teams that don't feel like they're that great, and I don't want to have to bet on either of them. But I do have to just point this out, Kyle. This will now be the second week in a row you are picking the Panthers to win a football game.
And I felt great about it. I lost on a 58-yard field goal?
Sure.
It was a huge second half comeback. But yeah, I felt pretty good about that situation all the way up until the final thing. It kind of happens. I had a few really close games that I felt like I should have won, and I didn't. I still feel like the Panthers are a better football team than the Giants right now. That's just kind of how I feel about it. I don't think the Panthers are a playoff contender. I just feel like they're a better football team.
What are the Panthers better at than the Giants?
Better at wide receiver by default.
I guess so. I don't think it's a massive advantage, but sure.
I think it's an advantage.
Okay.
Better at quarterback and better in the secondary.
I think that's a hot take, a bit.
You think Baker Mayfield? You think it's a debate Baker Mayfield better than Daniel Jones?
I think so. I think Daniel Jones is I don't think Daniel Jones is a great quarterback, but I don't think Daniel Jones is the mess.
I'd lean more towards the mess. He fumbled again. I don't know.
A tier 4 quarterback, Daniel Jones.
Okay, and tier 3.5 quarterback, Baker Mayfield.
But when's the last time we've seen Baker Mayfield play better than tier 5? It's been over a year.
I thought the second half of that game he was pretty solid.
He was hitting guys wide open due to blown coverages.
Yeah, I just think that he still made the throws. I wouldn't trust Daniel Jones to make any throws right now.
Really? I feel like, I don't know. Am I great? Daniel Jones I think he's a fine quarterback. He's not a spectacular quarterback, but he's not a mess.
I would lean Baker personally right now.
Okay, fine. The chat might agree with you. I don't know.
I guess it could be kind of a toss-up. Daniel Jones did better in week 1. I don't know. I just feel like I would still lean Baker in that one.
Okay. Well, potentially. Baker has the higher upside. I'll say that about Baker Mayfield. We don't need to get too lost in the weeds of who's better, Daniel Jones or Baker Mayfield. Neither of these teams should be spectacular. I'm interested in seeing this Panthers team. I didn't think that they were great week one. They're in my analytical power rankings. They were 32nd after week one. But at the same time, I do think that I think there's room for improvement, certainly, with a lot of their young players.
Yeah, and not committing penalties, that'll be a big thing too. Don't give this team extra, don't give a team extra possessions. That's one of the things that happened in Cleveland as, Jacoby Brissett, you know, CJ Henderson tackled the guy in the end zone while the ball was like floating 50 yards above his head in the
Uh-huh.
end. Jacoby Brissett rolled to his right and heaved one to the end zone to his left. And CJ Henderson, instead of just turning around and catching the ball, tackled the guy in the air. His teammate caught the interception way below them, and it was just the goofiest thing I'd ever seen. That being said, give me the Panthers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I don't think either of us are picking either of these teams to do too much. How it would be very fun though. I mean, Giants win this game. Seeing all of the reactions of Giants 2-0. Could the Giants make the playoffs? That'll be very fun.
Yeah, that would be that would be pretty funny if
Yeah.
I think you could talk yourself if you're in the NFC East, you might as well just talk yourself into it every year.
Sure.
'Cause
If
it
you're
just
in any
seems like
division, just talk yourself into it. It's fun.
maybe not like maybe not the AFC South. You should just talk yourself out of the season.
Maybe, perhaps that might
Talk
may
yourself
not
into
be.
pro relegation.
Yeah, might not be the worst idea. Kyle, give me another game.
Let's roll with Colts and Jaguars.
All right, Colts, Jaguars here. I gotta say, this line feels a bit light for me. I'm picking the Colts to win this. This line just has to be the Colts in Jacksonville thing, right?
Humidity's tough at this time of year.
Uh huh.
I don't like. What happens if the Colts struggle in this game too? And that's 3 straight games now with between the Colts, the Texans, or the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Jaguars that they're struggling. Like if they're not able to kind of dominate this game, are we worried?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I am too. I don't know.
I'm willing to say, like, week one, okay, weird things happen. It's week one. It's one game, divisional matchup, which, this one is as well. But, like, okay, fine. But, like, you can't do it again.
Yeah, I just think, I think my problem is, I'm not backtracking on the Colts winning the division. I still feel like they should win the division, mainly because I wasn't impressed with the Titans in week one. But, I just feel like if in today's NFL, and it was the way I felt about the Patriots in week 1, 2, and a few other teams, if you're not able to create explosive plays, how do you expect to have consistent success? That's just the way I feel about a lot of football teams nowadays. And I don't feel like the Colts are anywhere close. Their most consistent, their biggest explosive play percentage is probably Jonathan Taylor. And they're probably the only team in the league that's going to run the ball to try and create explosive plays.
Yeah. The flip side, they don't give up much explosive plays. That's kind of what they have. And I think especially against this Jaguars team, listen, hey, Christian Kirk lived up to his contract week one. Will that happen again?
Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
No. But, I mean, the thing was, too, is that, the Texans didn't have problems in the first half moving the ball. Now, they kind of sat in their hands for the last 6-7 minutes and almost blew the game, lost the win basically that way. But, they had success moving the ball on this defense early on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But again, I think it was a very fluky game. I think the Colts will be okay. I certainly like them to win, but again, they had a weird week last week, so they need to bounce back. Let's move on. I'm going to give you a game. I'm going to give you, gotta be honest. I guess there's still a couple good games left, but this is not one of the ones I'm necessarily giving you. I'm going to give you the Jets at Browns here. Who do you have winning this one?
Yeah, I think the big thing with this week is a lot of high spreads, which usually paints to not a great week. I'll take the Browns. Wasn't impressed with the Jets in week 1. Looked discombobulated on offense. I don't see how they stopped the run in this game. I get, they did a decently good job against the Ravens stopping the run, but I just don't see him doing it consistently against this offensive line, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and you know what? The Browns might win this game ugly because they're going to run the ball a lot. The clock's going to move fast, but I just don't see a scenario where the Jets are getting 14 points on this defense, honestly. So give me the Browns.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I mean, the Jets' offense did not look great last week. The only one thing I'm kind of willing to, part of why I'm giving you this game is, Browns didn't look great, particularly Jacoby Brissett last week, and that's a bit of a concern. If you're going to run the ball, I actually think the Jets have a decent defensive front. I think that they're okay there. I don't think they'll be great, but I think they'll be okay. I think the concern with the Browns would be that, and I think that I guess could Jacoby Brissett throw this game away? I think it's possible.
I mean, it could be. Yeah, I mean that's the big. He was not very good in week one, obviously. Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely think he could. I just don't know if the Browns are ever going to put him in that position to do it. Like, if the Browns actually fall behind, do you see a scenario where Jacoby Brissett is then all of a sudden dropping back and throwing the ball downfield multiple times a game? Like, I think they're just going to keep it kind of conservative and hope they can kind of tread water at the start of this season.
Yeah, I think so as well. I feel good that the Browns will win this game and go up to 2-0, especially with, there was some thought of like maybe if Zach Wilson comes back, could this Jets team be more interesting? But, that doesn't look like that's going to happen. I guess the one thing I would also throw in is we have seen this Jets scheme occasionally play well against a zone coverage team, which the Cleveland Browns are. Maybe that could happen, especially with, again, I know last week was so terrible for the Jets, but also they were playing week one Ravens. The week one Ravens are, different animal, just like preseason Ravens are a different animal. So maybe there's just something there. But again, I agree. I think Browns deserve to be the favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Deshaun Watson's obviously not playing, but go through if you made a list of the best players in this game, how far down do you have to go before you get to a Jet?
Miles
Garrett's
relatively far.
one. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
the one is you say like Quinn Williams might make the top 10, but I don't really even know if that's true. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's a pretty long list, I think, before you get to a Jet player on this team.
How about Sauce Gardner? He played good week one.
He was good in week one. Very impressed with him. You don't see that very often from rookie corners, so I'll be monitoring him. I don't think this is the game for him to like really stand out and make an impact. Like I said, Browns aren't going to stretch the field that much with this, with their quarterback situation. But yes, I am very impressed with him. He was, I think, both of our number one corners coming out of the draft. He was almost my number one player. I'm very impressed with him, and I'm looking forward to seeing his career.
Yeah, I believe he was my number 2 player behind Hutchinson, if I remember correctly. Him and Stingley played very well week one. So
Yes.
good stuff with the rookie corners. Interesting to see how those two teams play. Let's move on. Time for you to give me a game.
All right. Yeah, now we're at the teams that kind of reviewed at the bottom of the NFL as underdogs, and one game where one team looks like a favorite just because it's that first home game. I would say this is the one team that I kind of reevaluated that I had a little lower at preseason, and I think might be a better team than we thought. Let's do Falcons at Rams.
Okay, interesting. Falcons at Rams. I was not expecting this one, Kyle. I had this one. Actually, I had this one as my second lowest on the list. Not because I agree with what you're saying. I think the Falcons did look solid week one. I just feel like doesn't this feel like the Rams are, I don't think the Rams are going to do what they did last week again.
I don't think so either. Like, I still think the Rams win this one. They should. I think that I don't want to say it's a must win because everyone else in the NFC South lost.
Right.
But I don't think you want to keep losing games and start 0-2. They should be able to move the ball well in this game. I just think, I see a pathway where the Falcons win this game. Like, where these corners, who I think, is one of the better corner duos in the league, are able to kind of frustrate the Rams defense or Rams offense. Marcus Mariota gets on the move a little bit. Maybe, Drake London has a big game. I see a scenario a little bit where they can frustrate the Rams to a degree. I just think, like I said, I think it's a slightly better team than I thought. And even in the loss, I was impressed with what they were able to do.
Yeah, I don't disagree that I think the Falcons are better than I think most people, including myself, realize. I think that the Falcons did look promising. But I still think, I don't know, is there a bit of revisionist history going on with that Thursday night game a little bit? I mean, it was tied at halftime. The Bills-Rams game was. It was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. I feel like there's a bit of the Rams looked awful. The Rams hung with the Bills until the fourth quarter when things fell off the rails. I think that they're a very good football team, and I especially think that Falcons did look solid against the Saints, but I trust that this Rams team will come together.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that you're looking at with that that Rams game is. Like, I feel like when people talk about turnovers, sometimes it's like, oh, well, Josh Allen just gave the ball away one time, or like I think
Mhm.
one of them bounced off the receiver's hands. Like the
Mhm.
Rams still went up there and took the ball. I mean, you got to give them a little bit of credit for creating turnovers.
Right.
So I agree. I don't think it was too bad, but I still felt like they were the worst team by a bit. Like I think if those teams played again, I'd see the Bills, winning, and I might even, put 6 points on the Bills winning that game. Give them six. So I think this Rams team's probably going to bounce back and get right. I just, I think that there was enough for me to ask some questions. I thought in week one.
Yeah, that's fair. Where's the panic meter at if the Rams lose this game?
If they lose this one at home, two
Mhm.
games at home in a row, I'm going. It's probably 6.5. Honestly, like I still
Mhm.
think they can rebound and win the division, but I don't think if they're losing, if they're dropping games to Atlanta, which, like I said, I think was promising. They shouldn't win this game though. I think that I think there's a huge panic meter for the Rams there.
Yeah, and I also kind of feel like it's interesting because these are two inconsistent teams, but I just feel like the stars on the Rams are just significantly better than the stars on the Falcons, and I also feel like the Rams still have a bit more depth. Not a lot of teams that the Rams have more depth than, but this is, I think, one of them.
Yeah, I think the big thing is I want to see this Rams secondary get right. I know that Drake
Hmm.
London looked good. I know Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts, but if they're still not able to cover guys, I think in week two that's probably my biggest concern is this coverage fallen off a bit, or was it just a blip in the radar and kind of you know overlooking the game in week one?
Yeah, should be fascinating. Let's move on. I'm surprised you didn't go give me this one. The one with you gave me one with a 10-point spread instead of the one with a 4.5-point spread. Cardinals Raiders. Is this? Are you locking up the Raiders here?
Yeah, I'm going to lock up the Raiders. This was my lock.
Okay.
Go ahead and give me the Raiders in 4.5. I think they win this game by a touchdown. Like I said, I'm selling the Cardinals in their secondary. I don't see how they cover what I saw from the Raiders in week one. As long as Derek Carr doesn't throw, I would say two really bad interceptions and a third I wouldn't say was great.
Hmm.
So as long as he doesn't throw three picks that I thought were on bad throws, I think the Raiders should win this game. I don't see how this Cardinals defense, like I said, it's not even just that the secondary is bad. They lost their best pass rusher too, and it seems like they haven't really addressed that pass rushing hole. So I don't really know at this point if they can't rush the passer, if they can't cover, what do they do well? I don't see anything that they're going to do well defensively this season, except for have a pretty good safety back there in Buda Baker. That's if your defense is basically one good safety and spare parts, I don't see how that has success. So give me the Raiders on the lock.
Yeah, I think it's a good lock. I don't disagree. 4.5 points. It's a bit, gotta get more than a field goal here, but I still think that they probably will. Um, you know, I think that the first thing you brought up the interceptions. What's crazy about that too is like two of those interceptions could have been touchdowns had
Mhm.
Carr just like the first one if he just put more air under it for Darren Waller, and the second one if he just didn't underthrow it. Which I mean, talk about huge swings in that football game. The Raiders probably win if Carr just hits those two throws. So very fascinating there. But I guess the one thing I'll play devil's advocate here. Is it possible we could see a Kyler Murray great performance that we have seen in the past? We didn't see it week one. It's been a minute now since we've seen it, but last year in the first half he was fantastic. Could we see kind of this Kyler Murray offense uh, give the Raiders defense some trouble?
It's possible. Like I wouldn't be surprised, but I think one of the things too that we're looking at with this Cardinals team, where I think it obviously will get better when DeAndre. I mean, all the numbers point to it. Everything gets better when DeAndre Hopkins is up there, which makes sense. He's one of the
Hmm.
best receivers in the league, and things would if Rondell Moore is able to play, things probably get better in the passing game slightly because he's their kind of quick pass option. But this offensive line's old, and I think it kind of stings. Like it's just, I think it just stings. And I think this Raiders defensive line is better than the Chiefs defensive line. Chris Jones is obviously fantastic, but give me Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. I think this Raiders defensive line might be able to kind of get after him a little bit and make it, give him some hell in this game.
I think the offensive line's okay for the Cardinals, with the exception of they got to figure out a guard position. That's kind of their main thing. I think that their tackles are all right. But again, we talk about weak link position, right? If you got four good offensive linemen, you don't have a good offensive line. So that's probably fair. And also, the Cardinals hate to help out their offensive line, so that's another issue. But again, I agree. there's a reason why the Raiders Cardinals went this far down the road. Is there any chance this secondary starts to get right? Could we see them, well, Trayvon Mullen, who was banged up week 1, I don't know if he's going to play, but like, is there any chance that there's a way that we could start to see this secondary just look competent?
I think it's a turnover. I think it's a turnover dependent secondary, honestly. And by the way, Trayvon Mullen, it says unlikely for week 2 with a toe injury.
Okay.
So I think it's a turnover dependent secondary, and I just don't trust secondaries like that to have success. And like I said, Carr, obviously, with the interceptions in week 1, typically, I mean, he has his fumbling issues. He is not typically a turnover happy quarterback, especially when throwing the football. So I expect that to get right. I expect more people to be involved in this offense in week 2. Darren Waller was one of those guys who didn't do anything in the preseason. I expect him to kind of have a better game. And Devontae Adams, I still think, should have a very good game. He might be my number 1 receiver this week as far as just guys I'm picking to have a big game, because I just don't trust these guys. Like I said, I think they're going to take a ton of chances and try and create turnovers. I just don't see them having success otherwise.
Yeah, I could see it. Let's move on. So we got 5 games left. Give me a game.
Let's roll with, let's see, where am I going here? 5 games left. I'm going to give you the Seahawks at 49ers divisional game.
Yeah, the divisional game makes sense. Can the Seahawks continue? I mean, if the Seahawks win this game and go up 2-0, I mean, again, talk about the takes that will come out of that, especially with the 49ers who, I mean, again, you can blame it on the weather if you want to. They did lose the game to the Bears. That is something that happened. They played 60 minutes of football against the Chicago Bears and scored less points than them. I had the 49ers winning. I think the 49ers covered 8.5 points. But, I think the Seahawks won their Super Bowl week 1, and they're probably going to be very bad from here on out. But I could see it. You can talk yourself into it.
Yeah, especially with, this 49ers team isn't really built to beat the weakness of the Seahawks, which is their corners, right? So you could see, they're not going to go out and attack these corners like Denver, I think, at times did, to where, I think Russell Wilson had 340 yards passing in week 1. I don't think they'll go out and do something like that, especially in Trey Lance's basically, third career start, something like that. So I don't see that happening, but at the same time, the 49ers should roll in this game. It'd be a cause for concern if they lose this game after that week 1 thing.
Let's play it out. Trey Lance plays terrible. They lose week 2. Do you think about going back to Jimmy Garoppolo?
If he's terrible, yes.
Okay.
I mean, you can make up all the excuses about the field, the monsoon, all that kind of stuff in week 1. If he's terrible again, especially against this team, this should be if there's one team you should beat with as a quarterback, it should be this team that you should have success. If you're not showing promise against the Seahawks, then I'm just not sold on you as a passer yet. So I am concerned if he's not able to get it done in this one.
But you're not concerned about the Broncos for not getting it done against the Seahawks.
Well, it wasn't them being able to throw the ball wasn't the issue.
Sure.
Them fumbling at the 1 yard line was the issue.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. I don't think we're gonna spend forever on this game, but I guess what are the odds that the Seahawks come away with a victory here on a scale of 1 to 100, 1% to 100%? What's the likelihood?
I'll put it at a 20%. I don't think it's high, but at the same time, the NFC South is weird. The Seahawks also never play a normal game. So, just all of that put together, plus between what we saw in the first half of that Seahawks game and also what we saw from this 49er secondary in a monsoon just get blown away twice and not cover guys.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be shocking if the Seahawks are able to throw the ball a little bit in this game?
I'd be a little surprised.
Maybe a little, but at the same time, I'm not sold in this 49er secondary.
It had a bad week 1.
And, I just think there could be a few things that maybe the Seahawks take advantage of that and something happens.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. Let's go to the next game. I'm going to give you a game. I'm going to give you a team that is 10-point underdogs despite being the number 1 seed in the AFC last season. The Titans going to Buffalo as 10-point underdogs. Who do you have winning this one?
Yeah, this line does feel like an extreme overreaction.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't, I might tease, you could probably throw like a 3-team, 7-team tease on this and, move the Bills down to -3 and talk me into it. But like, I'm not betting the Bills, -10. I
Uh-huh.
am taking the Bills to win the game. It goes back to my point basically with the Colts. If you can't create explosive plays, how can I trust you? And even more so, if you can't create explosive plays against the Buffalo Bills, how can I trust you to keep up in this game? The one thing is like, could Jeffrey Simmons, just wreak havoc on this Bills interior offensive line? But then again, beating the offensive line Bills is half the battle. The second half of
Right.
that battle is then tackling Josh Allen, which is
Mhm.
not, might be harder than getting past the offensive line at this point. So I think maybe this Tennessee defensive line, even without Harold Landry, could have some success. But at the same time, I just don't trust it enough to beat the Bills. And so I'll take the Bills here to win pretty easily. But yeah, this line's crazy.
Yeah. The Titans defense played fantastic against the Giants. I know it's the Giants, but every facet of their defense looked great. Their secondary looked great. Their run defense looked great, and their pass rush looked great, which I've had concerns about this offseason. Maybe that's just playing the Giants.
Well, Saquon had
Certainly. That
150 yards.
what's that?
Saquon had 150 yards.
Sure, but I thought that Saquon was making good moves. I didn't think it was like as a whole. I thought that they were doing well.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the thing is like this isn't
You
this
know,
Bills team
I
isn't.
think fair enough. The run defense had its issues because of those plays, but other than
Yeah,
that, I thought they played well.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, and the Bills team is not going to be the kind of team that's going to run for 150 yards.
Right. Unless it's
James.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, exactly. James Cook isn't going to go nuts in this game or something
Hmm.
like that. Or maybe after the fumble, it's all Devin Singletary has been. They've been trying to replace Devin Singletary for like 15 years. It feels like he
Hmm.
hasn't even been in the league 15 years. They've been trying to replace Devin Singletary. He's just kept the
Hmm.
job. I don't know how it keeps happening. Feels like an office character, honestly.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, um, it's just it'll be interesting to see how this matches up. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this Tennessee defense is bad. In fact, I think this Tennessee's defense is good. That being said, I just think the Bills' offense is better. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, typically good offense. Beats good defense. But I don't know. I like what the Titans defense did. Again, I get it, it's the Giants, but as a whole, I do like what they did. The issue for me is just like you said, the Bills are still going to put up points, and uploaded a film study about kind of what went wrong with the Titans offense, and I felt like they really missed AJ Brown. I felt like they have guys in the receiving core who can run the role player routes effectively, but there's going to be times when it's a 3rd down and 6, you need to throw to somebody, and not having AJ Brown there to at least take away a double team, if not be the one who catches it himself, is that hurts you.
Yeah, I mean, didn't it feel like at times that like Dontrell Hilliard was their most explosive passing rusher?
Kyle Phillips was coming out here. This little Kyle Phillips, the 5th round draft pick. I think he got targeted on like 40% of his something like 40% of the routes that he ran. I mean, Kyle Phillips, I guess a name to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of talk about him out of preseason, so maybe he is just that good. But that being said, like I'm not trusting a team with if your rookie wide receiver from the 4th or 5th round is the guy you're going to in week 2, I'm not trusting your offense. It's just as simple as that. Now,
Hmm.
the one thing is, Josh Allen has been known to, force a ball downfield from time to time and throw a turnover. Kevin Byard's not the kind of guy you want to do that
Right.
against. So that's
Hmm.
probably the one thing where maybe the Titans steal a couple possessions that way, make this interesting. Um, but that being said, I just like you said, if Kyle Phillips is your offense, I just don't see it keeping up with what you want in Buffalo.
The disrespect to future offensive rookie of the year, Kyle Phillips.
A lot of good receiver play in week 1. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, no, very good. Hey, Titans beat the Bills last year, so who knows? Maybe they can pull it off again. Probably not. Let's move on. So now it is time for you to give me a game. There's 3 games left. We have Bengals, Cowboys, Bears, Packers, and Texans, Broncos. Where are you going here?
Um, hmm. Let's go. Let's go. Bears Packers.
Okay, Bears, Packers. I actually had another game ahead of this one, but yeah, Packers. Hey, they have a worse record than the Bears, but still 10-point favorites against them. I do have the Packers winning this football game. I mean, this just happens every season. The Packers have a tough loss and then play the Bears and win by 100, right? Like that consistently has always happened since Aaron Rodgers has been a Packer.
Yeah, basically. Must
Hmm.
be nice to have that on your schedule just to win.
Yeah, it'd be great. I bet if you see that on the schedule, you're playing before the Bears, because then you're like, oh, great, this will be the game that he struggles against, and then he'll kill the Bears by 100.
Yeah. Um, this feels like a get right game for the Packers. Hopefully, it's better weather than last week for the Bears. And then I want to see what this offense can look like. How do they respond after kind of getting embarrassed in week one? Like I don't. I'm higher on the Vikings than you are. I picked the Vikings to make the playoffs. I do not think this Vikings defense is awesome. I thought the Packers offense struggled. I thought AJ Dillon had a good game. They were able to kind of run the ball. I thought this passing game got kind of embarrassed a little bit, and especially with the reactions on the sideline, we did all that in the week one recap. Um, how does this team respond after kind of getting humiliated in week one?
Yeah, I would bet on they respond well. Again, it's the Packers versus the Bears thing. I kind of feel like if you can't get anything going, I mean, this Cardinals or this Bears secondary, I think could be okay. You have Jalen Johnson, who's good, and you have the Kyler Gordon, not to be confused with you, who is played as a rookie, played solid week one, I thought. And Eddie Jackson, is Eddie Jackson back? He had that great interception against Trey Lance. So there's maybe some guys who can do this stuff, but I just have to feel like the secondary is still unproven. Aaron Rodgers should have no real issue pushing the ball down the field. But I guess at the same time, it's not up to Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't catch the ball as well.
Yeah, he does not catch the ball as well. We learned that in week one. Um, I hope for the sake of these rookie receivers, they play better because
Right.
I can't imagine how bad that would be if they struggle again. I'm still a big Christian Watson fan. I still believe in the talent. I still think he's going to figure it out. And as I said last week, I thought Rodgers could have handled it a little bit better. Eventually, at the end of the day, you do have to catch the ball. You do have to catch those kind of passes. So we'll see how it adjusts. Yeah, this feels like a get right game for the Packers. Obviously, um, what are you looking for from the Bears in this game?
uh, have fun.
Have
Yeah.
fun, enjoy the moment.
Yeah, sure. I guess what you're always looking for. Justin Fields look decent, and then you lose the game.
Yeah, get some cheese curds while you're in Wisconsin. Maybe
Sure. Yeah.
do something like that. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I struggle to see how one of the things I thought kind of went under the radar because they got torched for half the game was I thought the defense actually got pretty right in the second half. Um,
Hmm.
you know, they just gave up 180 yards in the first half, so to Justin
Right.
Jefferson. I thought they kind of got right in the second half. So if they play like they did in the second half, I have a tough time seeing how the Bears move the football at all.
Yeah. Someone also put, don't write out the Bears here. Packers O line has a lot of injuries. That's very true as well. But I think I'm with you. The other side of the ball though feels just as tough, and probably I think it feels just as tough a situation that Fields is in, that Rodgers is in. But at least Aaron Rodgers is reigning back-to-back MVP quarterback, and Justin Fields is, Pro Football Focus had Justin Fields as the lowest rated passer last week, not overall quarterback, but passer. He was 30th out of the 32 quarterbacks last week. Fields did some nice things. Fields also, I mean, that interception in the first half was just abysmal. Like there's still things Fields has to clean up. He's a second-year player. It just feels like this is the Bears not doing him a lot of favors here.
He was 3-9 in the first half.
Yeah. Wait, what's that?
He was 3 of 9 in the first half.
Right,
Like,
right.
it definitely wasn't good in the first half. Obviously, you got a couple, and it was really kind of two kind of busted plays that they scored on. Now,
Hmm.
credit to them, they took advantage. But yeah, I mean, uh, it was a weird game. They took advantage and they were able to win it. We'll see how it adjusts in week two.
Yeah, and again, he did some nice things. It's a weird weather game. The excuses are all there, but it will be fascinating to see how that one goes. 2 games left. I'm going to give you 1 game, which in turn will give myself a game. Oh, I accidentally deleted the game I was going to give you. So let me put that banner back up real quick. But I'm going to give you the Texans at the Broncos. The Broncos are 10-point favorites here. If they lose to the Texans here, this is just an all-time disappointing start to a season, right?
Definitely is. I feel like, I think the theme with these last basically 3 games when we're talking about the Broncos, the Bengals, and the Packers is these all kind of feel like get right games. And you know what? You can chalk up week 1 stuff to week 1 losses and week 1 mistakes. This feels like a get right game for the Broncos. I expect them to be pretty good and kind of blow the Texans out. I thought about locking this one up. I will say, Texans defense didn't look too shabby in week 1. Their secondary, I thought, graded up pretty decently, which is, somewhat surprising given, the talent back there. Like you said, Derek Stingley, their first round pick, impressive for a rookie corner in his first game. I thought he was pretty good. That being said, I'm still taking the Broncos by double digits. They should beat this Texans defense pretty handily.
Yeah, they should. I don't know. Last week does have me a little bit worried, but I think you're right. It's a get right game. Are you not worried about Mills Mafia? Davis Mills coming through, potentially lighting up this Broncos defense?
No. No.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they create a couple of big plays. I mean, after what we saw last week where, there was a lot of upsets. I mean, a lot of the big thing was a lot of the bad teams were at home. And there's a lot of home upsets. I thought a lot of these teams now are turning around and going on the road. I could see it kind of swing back the other way, and everything we thought in week 1 kind of going back and, the status quo being normalized. But that being said, maybe they create a couple big plays. The Broncos, fumble the ball away a couple times in the red zone, and all of a sudden everything changes. Broncos are on upset alert. But I saw enough from the Broncos to be kind of optimistic about this game and winning it pretty easily.
Yeah, I know we like to a lot, especially me. I'm a big fan of making fun of the people who say, "Oh, this team wanted it more," because all that stuff. Like, who knows about that stuff? The Broncos want to win week 2 more than the Texans, right? I mean, the Broncos, I guarantee today, were way more focused in practice after getting embarrassed by the Seahawks than the Texans, who are really just happy to be playing football for a living. They're just like, "Hey, this is great. We make money. This is cool."
Yeah, exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. It's just hard to envision a scenario where they lose this game, right? Like, I don't know. It's another one
Like
of
they
those
just lost
ones.
to Seattle, though.
They did, but
Mm-hmm.
and it literally took 2 fumbles at the 1-yard line and
Uh-huh.
another possession where they had 1 drop touchdown in the end zone, and the tight end couldn't tap his toe in on that third possession too. So all of that put together meant the Broncos scored 16 points instead of potentially 30. So I think I just keep looking at that and saying the Broncos more times than not are going to convert and finish those drives with touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ready to move on to the last game?
I guess. I mean, Bengals at Cowboys. Cowboys. I feel like the Cowboys always have home games. What's going on here? You know, who do you? I'm not going to ask who you got. I know who you got, but why are the Bengals winning this one?
Yeah, I do have the Bengals. I mean, again, I feel like this line is insane. I don't know if this is just Cowboys fans who are always delusional and bet on their team no matter what. I don't know if this is just for whatever reason the market is not adjusting for how significant the loss of having Cooper Rush now come in and play. Football will be because, like, listen, regardless of how you feel about Dak Prescott, he's a fringe top 10 quarterback, and now having Cooper Rush there, who and I'm not even sure if he's a good backup quarterback. This is an issue for the Dallas Cowboys, especially when again the Bengals will be extra motivated after getting embarrassed by the Steelers. Yes, they're going to Dallas, but I think that they'll be able to move the ball effectively. You can't put. If I think there's a very real chance that Dan Quinn does the Dan Quinn thing, puts Diggs on Jamar Chase one-on-one, which I mean, don't do that to poor Trayvon Diggs, right? Do not make him have to cover. I know that Quinn likes to do that. You got to put safety help over Chase, right?
I would imagine so. I mean, I don't. I guess he could. I don't really see it happening. By
Uh,
the way, to answer John C. here, did you do the Eagles? Yes, we did every game. So make sure to go back and listen to it all.
uh,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess the one thing could be once again trying to find a sliver of hope is we saw the Bengals, and I think to an extent, I think you could fault Joe Burrow for it too. The offensive line struggle in week 1.
mhm.
I know TJ Watt was involved with that one, but I might at this point. I'm not going to say I might. At this point, I have Michael Parsons on that tier. I
Wow.
have him on the tier with TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald. Like,
Interesting. I guess. Well, here's my thing about Miles. I think I want to see it a little bit more. I get it. I get it. You can have him there. I want to see him do it a little bit more. Here's my question: at what point do we just put to say what are we doing? Parsons, you're an edge rusher now. If you're one of the best edge rushers in football, you're just an edge rusher. Why are we having you? Why are we wasting you for 20 snaps, having you not play edge rusher?
yeah, I mean, he's infinitely more valuable as an edge rusher than a linebacker. Like,
Uh
there's just no
huh.
debate. I don't quite get it either. And I don't know. I just keep looking at his efficiency stuff. It's not just that he gets to the quarterback and gets sacks, but
Hmm.
because he's playing those 20 snaps at linebacker, his efficiency numbers when he is rushing the quarterback are unbelievable. Like, this guy should lead the league in sacks every year at this point. It feels like if he's able to actually put themselves on the line of scrimmage and do it consistently, I think he's that good. I think he's special. I did pick him to win Defensive Player of the Year, so I guess it's not a hot take for me, but at the same time, he's on that level of player right now for me. I think he's one of the best defenders in football.
Yeah, listen, I get it. One thing that also definitely does help him a bit with the efficiency numbers is just like he does get a few pass rushes from the linebacker position, which those just have a much higher hit rate than from as in like an off ball linebacker than the edge rush position. But even if you isolate for that, his efficiency numbers are still incredible. So, yeah, I mean, I'm completely with you. And like the crazy thing is like he's still a good off ball linebacker. Like he's not a
Yeah.
bad off ball linebacker. Like he's still effective at that. So you can still use that in certain plays if you want to, or have him drop back into coverage as like a disguise. That stuff can work as well. But yeah, I think I was always a fan of like just use him how you're using him. But I think he just established himself as a clear edge rusher guy. I'm like, okay, you know what? Forget the fanciness. Just have him play edge.
Yeah, when you're that incredible at the position, yeah, I mean, I think it kind of has to be. So, and then, another thing with the Cowboys, Michael Gallup's still kind of a maybe. So, what we saw in this passing game in week 1, I don't see really getting better in week 2. Now, I don't think it's as good of a secondary, even though I think it's a solid secondary. I don't think it's Tampa Bay's secondary. So maybe they have a little more success. But that being said, I just don't see the way the Cowboys move the ball and keep up with the Bengals and what we saw at the end of that game.
I don't know. I mean, the Bengals secondary I mean, Eli Apple, the 19th highest graded corner week 1 according to PFF. We have the Eli Apple comeback is all the way here.
He's not one of the best. No. I'll still take Tampa. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a good secondary, and they proved in the playoffs they were a good secondary.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I I still think it's going to be way too hard of a time moving the ball. The one thing that you took solace from as a Cowboys fan was that Ezekiel Elliott looked a little more kind of engaged in week 1, but now he's going up against DJ Reader in the Bengals defensive line. I don't see them having
Hmm.
that kind of success either.
Yeah, I think the Bengals win by 100 probably. Here's a good question. Did you do Dolphins at Ravens yet? Kyle, have we done the Dolphins at the Raiders yet? Or
We
Ravens,
did
excuse me?
every game, baby. Every
Okay,
game.
every
Go back
gotcha.
and listen. Everybody.
Yeah. Someone else wants to know what's the Dolphins versus Raiders spread. Kyle, what was that?
I actually just deleted it. Crap. What was it?
I
I
don't
just
know.
closed all my tabs. I thought we were done.
Nope. You always got to be prepared. A 3.5 point Ravens lead.
Ravens minus 3.5.
Yes. So if anyone else has any spread questions, ask now because there's no way you'll be able to find it out otherwise. So here's where you can do it.
Yes.
Kyle, you good to spend an extra 10 minutes or so just answering spread questions?
I'd rather not, honestly.
Okay. Well, Kyle,
I
not
love you all,
what.
chat, but I do have to go at some point.
Okay. Well, then let's wrap this up. That is the show. Hopefully, we do better than last week, but if not, that's fine too. Whatever. So it's all about it's about the journey, not the destination, Kyle.
What if we're just the worst pickers all the time? Just constantly get a bunch of games wrong.
Yeah. Someone said, "What's the James Franklin versus Penn State spread?" Yeah, Kyle, what's that one?
James Franklin versus Penn State. It's the same team.
Is it? I don't know anything about college. It got by me.
James Franklin's the Penn State coach. Unless
I
you're
see.
saying, yeah. I mean, I think Penn State's minus 3 against Auburn this week. So
Okay, there you go.
Auburn sucks. So bet Penn State.
Okay, there you go. Gambling advice there at the end. I'm excited for this week. I think that there's some clunkers, but sometimes that's okay. You can focus on the good games.
Yeah, no, I think so. There's definitely going to be, except the thing is I still feel like it's too early that I need to zero in on some of these teams. Like if the Rams are all of a sudden only up 7-3 at halftime or something like that, like I have to watch that Rams game and find out what's going on with this team.
Right, exactly.
Um,
And you have to feel like out of all those, like, out of like those 6 games that like seemingly are clear, like one of them is going to go the other way, and that's going to be a big story.
yeah, I mean, at this point right now, like I'm not convinced on any of these NFC teams. I need to see all these teams that we all were really hyped about in the offseason kind of come alive and kind of get right. And there's a few teams in the AFC I want to fix themselves too. So um, anything can happen in the NFL. We saw it in week 1. We can see it again this week.
Yeah, I don't know. As a Tampa Bay fan, I'm very happy with how this NFC has broken down so far. I feel like all the top contenders haven't looked shaky, except you could argue the Bucs offense, but I think they'll be okay.
Um, yeah. I mean, we both picked Tampa to win the Super Bowl this year, so I guess that's not too hot for us. But
Mm-hmm.
they looked impressive in week 1 enough. They looked impressive enough, and like I said, they're still figuring out their offense with all these injuries. I think this team gets right. Maybe not this week. That's why I picked the Saints, but I still feel like they're going to get right soon.
Sure. If you like listening to podcasts, apologies about I forgot to put the audio feed of last show on there, but it's up there now. So if you ever want to, if you like the audio only feed, anywhere you get your podcast, that's available. If you don't see it on there, just tweet at me. I probably forgot to put it on there. So do that. Kyle, let them know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grondin, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK.
Yes, we also have an explanation for the James Franklin is so bad he fights Penn State, so that's why the spread
Oh,
was.
come on. Listen, Penn State's going to be fine. I don't know. This is crazy. He's such a good head coach he's a good college football coach.
Okay.
Everyone just doesn't like him because he keeps starting Sean Clifford, who I don't think is a bad college football quarterback either. Penn State's a good football team.
All right, Kyle, you should on your YouTube channel you could make a video about that.
Yeah, if I had a YouTube channel, I'd be all about it.
Yeah, you can name it Kyle Sports. I think
Grundy.
podcast co-host Kyle Sports, I think is the move.
Podcast co-host Kyle Sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little wordy. We're gonna have to bring that down.
Little word. Maybe we do make an acronym out of it or something.
Podcast co-host. We'll work it out. We'll work it
okay. We'll figure it out. Yeah. It should be interesting. Kyle, final thoughts before we head out.
Looking forward to week 2. Back to the season, back to the grind. Week 1 felt kind of like a blur. I think we were just kind of excited to, when you're getting a little too excited, then you get a little bit of tunnel vision. I felt like it was kind of a blur in week 1, ready to sit down and kind of enjoy these teams in week 2.
Yeah, it should be fun. Again, thank you to everybody for watching. We do appreciate it or listening. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.